Channel 5 Network. This is Sportsline.
Good evening, Nashville. Sportsline is on the air here on News Channel 5 Plus. It is the Wednesday extravaganza. Great to have you with us. We'll be here for another hour. So much to get into. NFL free agency has officially begun. The new league year began at around 3 o'clock this afternoon here locally. Titans making some moves. We're going to talk about those throughout the show. It started last night, really, with some of the big moves they made, some big free agent signings that the Two-Tone Blue were able to make. So we're going to talk about that. And, of course, we are on the eve of March Madness. The NCAA tournament for real gets underway tomorrow. Games all day Thursday, all day Friday. Of course, we have the, don't call it a play-in games. They're going on tonight in Dayton. Texas Southern getting a win. And Syracuse taking on Arizona State a little bit later on here to see which teams will advance to make their way into the NCAA tournament. And, of course, the Tennessee Vols open play. They are the number 3 seed in the South region. They are in Dallas to take on Wright State tomorrow in the 3-14 game. That game tips off at 11:40 a.m. local time. And here to talk about that and a lot more is our good friend, the sports columnist from the Tennessean. He's in Dallas right now to cover the Vols. Joe Rexroad joins us here on Sportsline. Rex, how are you, buddy? Good evening. I appreciate a couple minutes.
Hey, John, I'm okay. I mean, I'd be better if you were here showing the city of Dallas how to do karaoke, but, you know.
Yeah, you know what? They didn't let me go on this trip, and probably for that reason, but it's great to have you on. Let's start with the NCAA tournament. I want to get to some Titan stuff later on, too, as well. But let's talk about the immediate thing that you're there for. You know, you listen to the Vols, and all season long we know the story. Picked to finish 13th in the SEC. They have a great season, regular season co-champs, along with Auburn, get all the way to the championship game of the SEC tournament. And as Admiral Schofield said today at the press conference, you know, we're not a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits. We're 2- and 3-star guys, but we play together and we don't listen to what the pundits say. And here they are, the number 3 seed in the South region with a great chance, I think, to at least get to the Sweet 16. How do you, let's assume that they're going to take care of business tomorrow against Wright State, or if you have, you know, questions about that game, you can certainly bring those up. But let's assume they get past Wright State. How good do you think their chances are to get to the Sweet 16 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a good chance, John. I mean, I do. You know, this tournament, much crazier stuff I've seen with my own eyes than Wright State beating Tennessee tomorrow. But,
right.
You know, the one concern with that is this quick turnaround. I mean, you're talking, you know, they were playing Sunday afternoon. Wright State hasn't played since March 6th. And obviously, they travel back late night from St. Louis to Knoxville, and then immediately Knoxville to Dallas. There's a little concern there, but you know, I think if they can find their bearings and play that defense that they usually play, I think they'll be okay, get through it. And then, you know, I think a really, you know, it's funny. It's almost like I feel like it's too trendy, but if anybody's watched Loyola of Chicago play this year, that is a really good team. Now, Miami's really good, too, really talented, but, you know, a lot of people picking Loyola. I am too. I think either one of those teams is skilled, athletic, you know, has a lot of shooting, and would make for a really interesting, you know, second-round matchup with the Vols. But again, if they play their best, if they're two guys who I think make up the most unique tandem in the sport, Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams, if they play their games and they're hitting their shots and going inside and, you know, making things tough on the opponent, and they get enough guard play to go with it. And I really think there's a great chance the Vols are in Atlanta next week, looking at the 8th Sweet 16 in program history.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I've talked to a lot of experts, Joe, and they've all said, well, or a lot of them said, I don't think Tennessee is athletic enough to make a deep run in the tournament. Maybe, maybe not. But you mentioned Schofield and Grant Williams, and I just like the fact, a couple of factors here. One, their depth, and number two, they're kind of like the Predators in that a different guy can beat you every night. One night it's Jordan Bone, one night it's Schofield, one night it's Grant Williams. I mean, they have a number of guys that can get hot at any time, which should make it difficult for opposing teams to prepare for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, Jordan Bone was great against Arkansas in the SEC semifinals. And, you know, Jordan Bone, is he is one of their X factors, because when he's aggressive and uses his speed to get to the rim, whether it's to score or to create for others, they're a better team. But you're right, Lamonte Turner. I mean, to me, if there's a guy you want taking a late game outside shot, it's probably him. He's made so many big ones this year. You know, a guy like Kyle Alexander, he's also an X factor. He's got to come to play, and I think he has so much upside still. He's a junior, but he's still, to me, just starting to find himself as a player. And then, they can bring in, a Jordan Bowden. They really need to get him going again. He's kind of tailed up. I think he's a little banged up. They really need him to hit some shots. Even a guy like Derek Walker off the bench, really promising freshman space eater, guy who I think is really going to, be a bigger factor, down the road. But nice for Rick Barnes to have, different kinds of players and options. But, yeah, I still think, when it comes down to it, those two guys, I don't think they're going to go very far if they don't both play well. Admiral Schofield's averaged 20.5 points the last 6 games, playing out of his mind. Grant Williams has kind of tailed off a little bit. He's averaging 12-plus in the last 6. Get them both going. And, if you can get to the Sweet 16 in this tournament, then it's matchups, and
right.
You're only 2 wins from the Final Four. I wouldn't put any limits on this team.
Joe Rexrode joins us from Dallas, covering the Vols in the NCAA tournament. They open against Wright State tomorrow morning, 11:40 tip here locally. All right, Rex, what have you been able to learn about Wright State? We know they won the Horizon League. Obviously, a lot of fans probably don't know a whole lot about this team. What potentially could scare the Vols?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is freshman big man, and great name. I mean, Admiral Schofield's going to be on the all-name team, but Loudon Love, I mean, that's an all-name candidate. And he was there talking to us today. I mean, you're talking 6'9", 280, and a really skilled player. Skilled around the basket. True big. And Kyle Alexander, and that's a big challenge for him. Grant Benzinger is a really good perimeter player, a leader. They've got enough shooting. They play good defense. They're a sound, solid team. Just like a lot of these teams, these mid-majors that get in, they were a game off winning the Horizon League, but they came in and won the tournament. And that's a solid league with a lot of pretty good teams. Oakland is a team that's usually really good in that league. So I mean, they're on a roll. They are rested, and they do have, some of these mid-majors don't have that post guy. Right. I mean, a lot of them are, it's more like 6'6", 6'7" guys, and they really rely on the three. But this team can go inside and get things, and then they can get inside-out shots out of that. So that's the guy. Kyle Alexander has to be able to straight up guard him in the post, deny him position. They always say do your work early. That's a big thing. Not get in foul trouble. And I think if they can contain him, then, I think they'll be in good shape.
Talking with Joe Rexrode from the Tennessean, the sports columnist for the Tennessean. He's in Dallas for the Vols as they take on Wright State tomorrow. Around college basketball, Rex, it came out today, and our Steve Lehman was able to confirm it, that Kermit Davis is going to leave Middle Tennessee to go to Ole Miss. And when you look at the circumstances the last couple of years with him at Middle Tennessee, you can't really blame him. I mean, a year where the Blue Raiders win the Conference USA regular season, they stub their toe in the first round of the Conference USA tournament, and they get thrown to the NIT. Now he has an opportunity to go to a Power 5 conference, and if he can put together the type of years there that he did at Middle Tennessee, he's not going to really have to worry a whole lot about sweating it out on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, you feel it's just such a tough, all of a sudden, things flipping on Middle Tennessee fans here. I mean, yeah. I went down there and watched them, pound Western Kentucky, and at that point it's like, well, they're in the tournament. They might be an 8 seed. They could make a run. They could get to the second weekend. Kermit's got this thing rolling. And now keep in mind, whether, even if all these things didn't happen, if they didn't lose and then they didn't get kept out, I think Ole Miss would have landed Kermit. I think he would have gone. I think he would have gone to LSU last year. So it's not like this drove him out. But sure, as he was going through all this, it's another reminder, man, it's just what more can you do? Right. So you schedule hard. You play really well in these tough games against Power 5 teams. You come up just short. I mean, at Auburn by 6, Miami by 3. And then, there's so little margin for error that you stumble at the end and you don't get in. And I mean, look, it's tilted in favor of the Power Fives. And then, of course, where you compare facilities and recruiting upside and all that as well. So, great for Kermit. He deserves it. I think he's a tremendous coach. And hopefully what he's done in Murfreesboro will attract a really good candidate. I mean, they've got a good thing going now. This is the best program in CUSA until further notice. And so this is a really strong thing for someone to take over. And obviously it's critical that they find someone good, and there are some good candidates out there.
Good stuff, Joe. All right, let's switch gears, talk a little football. While you were traveling to the Lone Star State, the Titans were certainly busy. They pluck a couple of former Patriots now. Dion Lewis, the running back, Malcolm Butler, the cornerback, two of the top free agents at their respective positions. Today they re-up with Josh Klein. He'll be back. They give Quentin Spain a qualifying or a tender offer as a restricted free agent, so there's a good chance that he'll remain with the club. And they re-up with Daquan Jones. They lose Avery Williamson, but so far seems like a pretty good start for John Robinson in the free agency phase of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I feel like Dion Lewis, I think is a great pickup. You're always wary a little bit of these guys. Like, they go to New England and they look great, and then like they go to any other team and it's like they got kryptonite or something.
Right.
But I think it'll work for and I think it's a great contrast now in the backfield. Between Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis, you have two very different backs. And it's good to be able to throw that at teams. And I think two backs who are potent and can do a lot of different things. And then, Malcolm Butler, I did not see that coming, but I get it. Look, you're defending the pass is a premium in both rushing the passer, which is certainly still needs to be addressed.
Right.
And of course, in the secondary. And now you can trot out there. Look, Logan Ryan last year played the slot a lot of snaps. And now you can go with Malcolm Butler and Adoree Jackson on the outside and Logan Ryan inside if you like, and that'll be your secondary look, for the majority of the snaps, and to feel strong at all three, and then still have a guy like LaShawn Sims that you can rotate in there. That's a strong corner, group. There's not the absolute dominant take away of half the field guy in there, but Malcolm Butler's a good player, and I think Daquan Jones is an important thing to keep him. I really do.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
they paid for him, and you see why. I thought their defense really was affected when he went out, and I thought he was playing some terrific football before he got hurt. So, it all makes sense. And now it's a matter to me of, of course, as you mentioned, Avery Williamson. So you got to figure that out. Is Jayon Brown a guy you feel like could be, a three-down backer? You'll probably have to look, to get someone else in there, and then. The big question to me is, how are you replenishing that pass rush? Until we see Kevin Dodd look like he's a player, I don't think he's a player. And, of course, Arakpo and Morgan are good players, and they're not going to be around a whole bunch longer. So that, to me, is the premium. And then it'll be interesting to see if they do something at receiver. Do they like who they have? They feel like they're ready to take a step, or do they feel like they need to go get someone else?
It's the first time we've had you on since last week when the Titans parted ways with DeMarco Murray. Obviously, it just seemed like a classic money versus production versus age situation. Some people were surprised. I was not overly shocked about that. How about you?
No, I wasn't. I could see the case being made to see if you could get him at a reduced rate. But, the fact is, for him, I won't be surprised if he goes out. He's not going to get $6 million, but I won't be surprised if he goes out and gets a decent deal from someone.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with DeMarco is, first of all, I think he was a really important pickup a couple of years ago, and he did a lot for the Titans. I think just his presence in the locker room, important. And look, I think he was arguably the best back in the NFL the first half of 2016. But as you know, John, you get to 30, and it's running backs in the NFL. It's like they're our age or something in real life. It's like they're ancient, and
they just fall off the cliff once they hit 30. Most of them, right?
There are exceptions. Frank Gore's still out there blasting people, but DeMarco just couldn't stay healthy. He clearly wasn't the same guy in the last season and a half, and so I wasn't very surprised by it. It'll be interesting to see where he lands. I know the Lions have talked to him, and some other teams are interested too, and hopefully he'll find a good spot.
Finishing up with Joe Rexrode here. He's kind enough to join us from Dallas, getting ready to take in the Vols versus Wright State NCAA tournament opener tomorrow. All right, Joe, you kind of alluded to it. That kind of opens the door for Derrick Henry to be the lead dog now in the Titans backfield. And I know a lot of our viewers who are Alabama fans are overjoyed at that fact. But you and I have talked about this both on and off the record. I'll come straight out with it. I got to see more from Derrick Henry in terms of the power game. I think too many times he looks to bounce plays outside. I recall that 4th down and short in the Patriots playoff game. You know, he's supposed to be touted as this big, strong, physical back. And you and I both know sometimes if all you can get me is 2 or 3 yards, you got to put your head down and give me 2 or 3 yards, because 2nd and 7 is way better than 2nd and 12. What do you see from Derrick Henry going into this year, and how do you think his play will respond now that he knows he's going to be the guy carrying the mail? He's the new Eddie George now for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, well, and if he could run like that, then I'd say for a bunch of years of a lot of production. But he doesn't run like that. But he's such an intriguing talent, and yeah, we've talked about this before. The Kansas City game is absolute. It's like, look at that. But in the 4th quarter, they didn't want to tackle him anymore. That's what he should be. But the week before that against Jacksonville, it was very much different from that. So he's got to figure that out, and I would think that we think the primary back would be a big thing. I mean, it is interesting with this offense, how they look at this. Do they look at it like it's Derrick Henry on 1st, 2nd down, and Deion Lewis is the 3rd down back and he's going to catch swing passes, or is it more of a competitive thing, and whoever, the hot back and whoever's running better, it's going to be interesting to see how both those guys are used in the new scheme. But to me, you have to be intrigued by his talent, and he can do it, and it really is a lot of it, I think, just mindset from him. Like you said, John, sometimes just take the 3.
Yeah.
I know you think you can get the corner and get 20, but take the 3. Get that cumulative effect going on that defense, and then in the 4th quarter, they don't want any part of you. So, yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see if he can be that guy consistently now.
All right, Rex, is your bracket all filled out? Who you got cutting down the nets? Who wins it all?
It is. I just filled out my family pool where I usually finish last. So, while my 7-year-old daughter blows me away. But I got Villanova. Winning it all. Villanova over Arizona. NCAA, thanking the heavens that that Wildcats don't win it all and then have their title vacated in 3 years. Yeah,
imagine that. Joe, I really appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll be reading you all weekend as we move along, both in the NCAA tournament and in the NFL free agency, my man.
All right, buddy. Thanks for having me, John.
All right, the great Joe Rexrode. Make sure you read him in the Tennessee and follow him on Twitter at Joe Rexrode as well. Time for our first break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the Vols on the eve of their NCAA tournament opener tomorrow morning against Wright State, plus your phone calls. Stay with us. Sportsline continues right after this.